discovered the heartwarming moment she used sign language at Christmas to win his mother's love. In the quaint town of Maplewood, Wisconsin, a story of hope and connection unfolded one snowy Christmas Eve. Sarah, a devoted single mother, stood at the window of their tiny apartment, watching the delicate flurries dance in the night air. Inside, the twinkling lights reflected off the glass, casting a warm glow, yet a heaviness settled in her chest. Life had not been easy for her or her 6-year-old son Jake, who faced the world with bright eyes but a silent struggle of his own. He had hearing impairments. Amidst the joy of the holiday season, Sarah felt the weight of the bills piled high and the crushing loneliness of raising her son without family nearby. Just then, she heard Jake's small voice, soft yet filled with longing. "I wish I could talk to Grandma," he said with a furrowed brow, his innocent desire echoing in Sarah's heart. A rush of emotions flooded her, guilt and sorrow twisted within her, for she knew how much Jake yearned for a connection to his family, especially to his grandmother, who was also deaf. Each word Jake spoke felt like a reminder of her longing to bridge that gap. Determined, she decided then and there to make this a Christmas to remember. Sarah immersed herself in learning sign language, scouring the internet for lessons and practicing until her fingers ached. Each sign was a stepping stone towards building a bridge between her son and his grandmother. As she fumbled her way through simple phrases, she envisioned a beautiful moment, Jake and his grandmother laughing together as they shared stories, a family bond reigniting in their hands. As Christmas Eve approached, anticipation buzzed in the air. Sarah barely slept, her heart racing at the thought of their small gathering at Grandma's house. The flickering candles and faint laughter echoed in her mind, but anxiety clawed at her. What if her attempts at communication weren't enough? What if she stumbled over her signs? Finding the courage was difficult, but the moment Jake and she arrived at Grandma's house, the flicker of hope ignited. The warmth of the space hugged them as they entered, the scent of cinnamon and pine filling the air. Sarah's heart pounded as she caught Grandma's eye. Anxiety coursed through her. Would their history of silence resonate in this joyful room? Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward, trembling as she signed, "Merry Christmas." Time seemed to freeze. Grandma's expression shifted from curiosity to sheer surprise. A gentle smile spread across her face, her tears welling up, a deep warmth radiating as she processed the love behind the unfamiliar handshapes. The room brightened, laughter replaced hesitation, and Jake's eyes sparkled with recognition of the love wrapped in those signs. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening.
YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. In that shared moment, laughter looped around them, knitting hearts torn by years of distance. Yet unspoken tension lingered in the air, overshadowed by the ghosts of past misunderstandings. Could this small breakthrough shift the course of their family story? A flicker of hope sparked inside Sarah, yet shadows of doubt loomed. As her eyes met Jake's and Grandma's in a shared smile, she couldn't help but wonder, would this be the moment they all had been waiting for, or merely a fleeting flicker of connection before darkness returned? The lively chatter and soft Christmas music filled the room, but amid the warmth, Sarah felt her stomach twist. What had started as a joyful reunion now felt overwhelming. Jake clutched her hand, his little fingers wrapping around hers tightly, as if offering a lifeline. "Let's show Grandma the new signs we learned," he whispered, his excitement bubbling just beneath the surface. Sarah nodded, swallowing her nerves. This was Jake's moment, not hers. She took a step closer to Grandma, who was still wiping the tears from her eyes, and with a trembling smile, Jake signed "Happy Christmas" with all the enthusiasm worthy of a holiday celebration. Watching him, Sarah's heart swelled with pride. This was perfect. This was the connection they had both been craving. Grandma's face lit up with delight as she returned Jake's sign, her own hands flowing gracefully in the air. Jake's eyes shone like stars as he realized she understood him. Time felt infinite as they exchanged a flurry of signs, words growing into laughter, laughter into connection. Sarah felt her breath catch. At that moment, the two loves of her life were estranged no more. But as minutes passed, a shadow fell over Sarah's heart. Deep-seated resentment lingered in the back of her mind. Could these fleeting moments of joy truly erase the painful distance that stretched across the years? She loved her mother-in-law. She thought of all those missed birthdays and family reunions. Would Grandma allow herself to be part of Jake's life now, or would their connection remain a fragile thread, easily broken? As the evening continued, Grandma reached for her holiday treats, handing Jake a soft gingerbread man, its buttons glimmering like the memories she hoped to build with him. He beamed, but the minuscule bite of guilt reminded Sarah of the regrets hovering around them like floating snowflakes, a beautiful image that was just as ephemeral. "Do you want to go get some cocoa?"
"Sarah?" asked Jake, needing a brief moment to gather her thoughts away from the heavy atmosphere. He nodded eagerly, and the two slipped into the kitchen. While waiting for the kettle to boil, Sarah poured the glittering chocolate powder into the mugs, her mind racing. "Mom," Jake said suddenly, his voice small, "will Grandma still love me even if I can't talk like everyone else?" Sarah's heart ached. She turned, crouching to be at his eye level. "Of course, sweetie. Love isn't about the words we use, it's about the way we connect." "Do you think Grandma will learn how to sign?" Jake asked, a curious tilt to his head. "I hope so," Sarah replied, brushing a straight tear from her cheek as the water hissed. "Let's help her with that." Just then they heard Grandma's voice from the other room, calling for them. The warmth of the kitchen faded when Sarah saw Jake's face light up again, and she realized the spark of hope she felt was mutual. As they returned to the living room, Sarah's pulse quickened. The fear that had gripped her began to loosen its hold. Maybe this Christmas wasn't just about reconnecting, it was about rewriting their family dynamic, bringing old wounds into the light. The laughter enveloped them again, and Sarah realized just how far they've come, yet she also wondered how far they had left to go. Would the new bonds they were forming withstand the trials of faith and time? As the sound of joy echoed in her heart, she knew they still had much to uncover. And at that moment, just as she glanced at Grandma, the doorbell rang. Who could it be? Sarah's heart raced with an unspeakable mix of anticipation and fear. The evening was about to change again. Jake's eyes widened as he looked at Sarah, his small frame trembling with both excitement and curiosity. "Who is it, Mom?" he asked, bouncing on his toes. "I don't know, honey," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady despite the turbulent emotions swirling within her. She exchanged a glance with Grandma, who stood frozen by the couch, an unreadable expression crossing her face. "Should we check?" Jake suggested, already moving towards the door, the cocoa forgotten. Sarah chuckled softly, heartened by his zest for surprise. She followed him, taking a moment to steady her breath as they reached the entrance. With a hesitant hand, Jake turned the doorknob and pushed the door open. Outside, snowflakes danced gently in the air, illuminated by the twinkling Christmas lights strung across the porch. The sight was enchanting, but what awaited them froze Sarah in place. There, standing on the snowy step, was Emma, a childhood friend of Sarah's who had moved away years ago. Her presence brought a flood of memories back, memories filled with laughter and secrets shared on summer days. "Emma," Sarah exclaimed, her heart leaping with unexpected joy. "I can't believe it's you." Jake tugged at Sarah's sleeve, eyes sparkling. "Mom, who is she?"
"Remember I told you about my friend from high school? This is her," Sarah replied, her smile stretching wide. Emma stepped inside, brushing snow from her shoulders, and for a moment the past enveloped them. As the door closed behind Emma, the warmth of old friendships filled the living room, shifting the mood in the room. Grandma, curious yet cautious, stepped forward. "Hello," she said, a hint of surprise lacing her voice. "Hi, it's great to see you again," Emma replied, her voice bright and genuine. "I just wanted to drop by and wish you all a happy holiday. I hope I'm not interrupting." "No, not at all," Sarah reassured her, glancing at Jake. "This is perfect." "Can I show her the signs too?" Jake pleaded, eyes wide with hope. "Of course," Sarah smiled, feeling the lightness in her heart return. This was the very essence of connection she longed for, not just between Grandma and Jake, but expanding to embrace Emma. Jake bounced back to the center of the living room, exhilaration radiating from him. With gestured excitement, he began to sign Happy Christmas once more. Sarah watched as Emma fell into rhythm with Jake's vibrant energy, her expressive hands joining in the celebration. As their laughter filled the air, Sarah took a moment to catch her breath. Perhaps Emma's arrival was exactly what they needed, a way to introduce warmth and familiarity back into the gathering. For the first time that night, she felt a flicker of joy overshadowing her worries. Grandma looked on, a soft smile creeping onto her lips, her earlier caution melting away. Something shifted in the atmosphere. Barriers were lowering. Emma turned to Grandma, extending her arms. "Why don't we learn some signs together?" she suggested warmly. A mixture of determination and encouragement moved through the room. Just like that, the bonds stretched further. The distance that had felt so insurmountable seemed to shrink. "Okay," Grandma agreed, her voice steady. She reached for Jake's hand, allowing him to guide her movements. The simple act of learning together, of truly valuing each other, bore an unmistakable promise. Yet, as the minutes danced by, and their hands began to weave an intricate tapestry of connection, Sarah's heart remained heavy with a lingering question. Would this new connection last beyond the holidays? After years of hesitation, could they build something lasting from this fragile moment? The warmth of the gathering surrounded her, but one thought whispered in the back of her mind. Would the true test of this newfound closeness come when the music faded and life returned to normal? Just then, the doorbell chimed again, pulling Sarah from her reverie. Who else could be standing on their doorstep now? The feeling of anticipation surged once more, a wave of uncertainty washing over her as she moved toward the door again. As Sarah approached the door, her heart raced. Was it possible that another unexpected visitor awaited her?
Pushing aside her doubts, she grasped the doorknob, took a deep breath, and swung the door open once more. Outside stood a tall figure, bundled in layers of winter clothing. As she squinted against the soft glow of the porch lights, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. It was Mark, her childhood sweetheart, another face from her past that she never anticipated to see again. "Mark!" she exclaimed, all her composure slipping away. Memories rushed back, moments filled with laughter and warmth, now tangled in years gone by. "Wow, it's good to see you," he said, grinning as he shook off the snow from his boots. "I was in town visiting family and thought I'd drop by." Jake surged past Sarah, almost knocking her sideways. "Mom, is this your friend too?" he asked, his eyes wide with wonder. "Yes, this is Mark. He and I went to school together," Sarah answered, feeling a lump form in her throat. "You remember our stories, Jake?" "Of course," Jake beamed, his excitement bubbling over. "You guys used to have that club. What was it called again? The Secret Treehouse Club?" Mark chuckled, nodding. "That's right. We had some good times back then." He turned to Sarah, and they shared a moment, the warmth of nostalgia flooding back. Sarah stepped aside, allowing Mark inside. As he entered, the warmth of the room contrasted sharply with the cold wind outside. Their reunion, however, was quickly disrupted by Jake's exuberant energy as he jumped into a barrage of questions. "Can you sign too, Mr. Mark? Can you show me some signs?" Jake bounced eagerly, his cheeks flushed with excitement. Mark glanced at Sarah, whose heart swelled at her son's infectious enthusiasm. "I'd love to learn," he replied, joining Jake in the living room. Sarah watched as Jake took the lead, demonstrating signs with care and precision. Mark followed along, mimicking the movements, laughing at himself when he stumbled. It felt magical, witnessing this connection blooming so effortlessly among them. Meanwhile, Sarah felt a tug in her chest at the sight of Grandma, sitting quietly in the armchair, looking on with curiosity. The world outside may feel cold and distant, but inside a warm fire of connection was kindling. "Hey, Grandma," Jake called over, bringing her back into the fold. "Want to join us?" Grandma smiled warmly and nodded, lifting her hands slightly in their direction. "Sure, I'd love that." As the group dove deeper into the lessons of sign language, Sarah felt a wave of emotion sweeping over her. This gathering had turned from a simple holiday celebration into something truly special, a revival of old friendships and the forging of new bonds. But as they laughed and celebrated, one thought lingered in the back of Sarah's mind. Would Mark feel the same way about this moment when he stepped back into his life? How would he react when he saw how much things had changed? Those lingering questions clouded her thoughts, even through the laughter.
Just as she was starting to feel comforted by the atmosphere, a twinge of fear gripped her heart. In the middle of a sign for Merry Christmas, Jake paused, his face lighting up with realization. "Wait, Mom, do you think Mr. Mark could join our holiday tomorrow?" The question hung in the air, and Sarah's heart raced. What if he did? What if this gathering, this moment, could blossom into something deeper for all of them? As she looked at Mark, his face brightening at the suggestion, Sarah felt gratitude. But would he say yes when she really needed him to? The front door creaked as a gust of wind blew through, making them all shiver slightly. The echo of the weather outside mingled with the uncertainty brewing inside Sarah. Would this Christmas bring blessings or heartbreak? Mark looked at Jake, his face mirroring the boy's eagerness. "Why not? I would love to spend Christmas with you all. It sounds really special," he said, his voice steady yet laced with a hint of hesitation. An overwhelming rush of emotion swept through Sarah. She felt lighter, but her heart held on to that thread of doubt. Would he still feel that way come morning? Would he slip back into the life he'd left behind? Or could this moment lead to something more? "Really?" Jake shouted, a wide grin spreading across his face. "You have to stay, Mom. You can show us that thing we practiced too." His eyes sparkled with pure hope. "Sure, buddy," Sarah replied, trying to match his enthusiasm while battling a whirlwind of feelings. She could sense the conversation turning deeper as Grandma settled back in her chair, sipping tea, her expression warm and inviting. The night progressed with stories, laughter, and signs exchanged among them. Each giggle, each hand motion rolled through Sarah like waves. Memories washed over her, intermingling with the present. She peered at Mark, noticing the way his eyes shone when they coffers, a flicker of something familiar, something profound, but it was fleeting. Her heart ached and spilled hope like a cracked jug. As the fire crackled softly in the background, Mark shared tales of his travels, weaving moments of joy and discovery. Sarah hung on every word, the familiarity of his voice enveloping her like a childhood blanket. "Remember that time we tried to build that treehouse?" He chuckled. "I think we ended up with more splinters than we did walls." "Yeah, and your dad was furious," Sarah laughed, chuckling softly as nostalgia filled the air like sweet peppermint. "Mom, will you build a treehouse with me?" Jake chimed in. His innocent question caught Sarah off guard. "Maybe one day, Jake, if we find the right tree," she said, her voice wavering. Mark's gaze met hers, filled with a warmth that sent tingles racing down her spine. In that moment, with Jake's fingers tangled in signs, Sarah felt how profoundly things had changed yet stayed the same. A new treehouse wasn't built on nostalgia alone. It was crafted through new memories.
But when Mark excused himself to the bathroom, the lightness in the room faded slightly. Grandma's voice broke through the silence. "You know, dear, it's important to hold on to connections like this." "What if he leaves again?" Sarah asked, the question trembling on her lips. "What if I can't keep him?" Grandma reached out, her hand on Sarah's arm. "Some things are worth the risk. Remember your love for him? The laughter? It can find its way back, even scarred." As if sensing the undercurrent of her worries, Jake bounded in with a grin, dragging Mark behind him. "See, Mr. Mark? My mom and Grandma were just talking about you." Sarah's heart pounded. The moment felt fragile, like glass, teetering on a ledge. "There's something I want to show you, Mark," she said impulsively, gripping Jake's hand. Mark raised an eyebrow, intrigue shining in his eyes. "Sure, what is it?" Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward, leaving vulnerability naked in her voice. "It's something I've been working on. A sign, a message for you." Her hands moved through the air, fingers dancing, as she formed the letters that spelled out her feelings. "Love." Mark's brows knitted together, his gaze locked onto her, riveted with understanding. The atmosphere hung heavy around them, thick with anticipation. Would he see the depth of her heart reflected in those gestures? And what would follow after the reveal? "Sarah," he breathed, but before he could finish, a loud knock interrupted their moment, sending shivers rippling down her spine. Suddenly, she wondered who could be at the door now. Would it disrupt the budding connection she felt like a fragile promise, holding them together? Would this Christmas hold the keys to her heart? Or would it shut her down again? The knock echoed again, more insistent this time, shaking Sarah from her reverie. Her heart raced, uncertainty gripping her. Would it be good news, or something that sent everything spiraling? She exchanged a glance with Mark, whose expression mirrored her mixed emotions, curiosity and trepidation. Jake, buoyant as ever, sprang towards the door. "I'll get it," he called out, excitement blooming in his voice. Sarah's instinct told her to stop him. What if it was someone unexpected, someone who could complicate everything? Before she could call him back, the door swung open, revealing a tall figure cloaked in a heavy coat. The moment felt electric, charged with possibilities. "Dad!" Jake shouted, and Sarah's heart sank. She hadn't anticipated this arrival, and her mind raced through the implications. Mark's face shifted from curiosity to surprise, then uncertainty. He looked between Jake and Sarah, caught in the storm of emotions that pulsed through the room. "Hey, buddy, Merry Christmas," Jake's dad greeted, stooping down to wrap his arms around Jake, lifting him off the ground. "Mom didn't tell me you were coming."
"Jake!" exclaimed, laughing as he wriggled in his father's embrace. Sarah stood, frozen, a whirlwind of feelings colliding. Mark's presence, which had brought her hope, now seemed overshadowed by the suddenness of her ex-husband's entrance. Memories they had shared rushed back in a flood, but there was no time for reflection. The moment demanded action. Hey, she managed, trying to keep her cool, but her voice trembled. She stepped forward, her heart echoing in her ears. "Rick, this is Mark." Mark extended a hand, but the tension between him and Rick was palpable, a thick wall of unspoken words and clashing emotions rising high between them. Jake's happiness bounced off the walls, unaware of the tension brewed beneath the surface. "Nice to meet you," Rick said tersely, shaking Mark's hand. Their eyes locked, each sizing the other up, a silent contest of sorts. "Likewise," Mark replied, his voice steady, though his body stiffened. Sarah sensed the shift in energy. Everyone felt it, but Jake, ever the innocent explorer, broke the moment. "Can we have hot cocoa? Mom, can you help me? And Mark, too." His excitement wrapped around her like a lifeline. "Sure, Jake," she said, grateful for his distraction. She motioned for Mark to follow, hoping he would mirror Jake's joy despite the tension. "Do you want to help me make merry treats?" she asked, ushering the three of them into the kitchen,
where the aroma of cinnamon still lingered. The warmth of the kitchen seemed to contrast with the chill that had settled in her heart. As they melted chocolate and mixed marshmallows, she could feel Mark's eyes on her. Could he read the apprehension on her face? Everything felt fragile, like holiday lights on the verge of flickering out. "Sarah," he said softly, leaning closer as Jake happily hummed holiday tunes nearby. "Are you okay?" His concern washed over her like a soothing balm, straightening her spine. "I didn't expect him to come here tonight. It's complicated," she admitted, casting a brief glance towards where Rick was stirring hot cocoa with a mechanical smile plastered on his face. "Life can be complicated," Mark whispered back, his voice just above the sound of whisking. "But maybe that's where the real magic lies." Jake interrupted, raising his cup for a cheers. "Cocoa time!" His cheerful voice rang out, pulling them back. They clinked their mugs together, laughter erupting into the air. Yet Sarah's heart still lined with doubt. She could almost hear the ticking clock, counting moments until realities collided once again. But could this fragile Christmas, with its unexpected twists, still lead to healing? Sarah glanced at Mark, then back where Rick stood, the man who had once broken her heart, yet the same heart still yearned for the connection she had. "Let's make some memories," she whispered to herself, daring to hope.
As they continued their cocoa chaos, Jake's laughter blended with the warm light surrounding them, stirring something within Sarah. Change was in the air, but what would it bring? And as the night deepened outside, the question lingered. What would happen when the connections they cherished began to intertwine again? The kitchen buzzed with energy as Jake stirred the hot cocoa, his small hands jiggling the spoon while he hummed a cheerful tune. Sarah watched him, trying to ground herself in the moment. It was these little quirks, this innocent joy, that made everything worth it. Yet the atmosphere felt off kilter, a delicate balance on the edge. She exchanged a brief glance with Mark, who smiled at Jake, but there was something in his eyes. Concern existed just below the surface, and maybe it mirrored her own. She could sense he was struggling too, caught between newness and the unexpected return of someone from her past. "Jake," Sarah said as she poured whipped cream into mugs, "what do you want to do after we finish our cocoa?" "Can we decorate the cookies?" Jake bounced on his feet, his enthusiasm brightening the room. "Dad, can you help?" "Of course," Rick chimed in from the entrance, his voice suddenly filled with warmth and pride. "I'm the best cookie decorator in the world." Jake giggled. "No way, Mom is the best." For a fleeting moment, Sarah felt a pang of longing. It was a simple validation, yet it cut deep as she realized she craved that recognition herself. Was she still the best in her son's eyes, or had that been overshadowed by Rick's unexpected return? Mark observed the exchange, his brow slightly furrowed. She could feel him gauging the dynamics, trying to understand his place amid this familial revival. "Let's get the sprinkles, and I'll show you my special technique," Jake exclaimed, tugging at his dad's hand, dragging him closer to the counter. The cheerful chaos settled around them like a warm blanket. While their laughter encircled the room, Sarah stood slightly apart, an uninvited guest to her own memories. Seeing Rick engage with Jake stirred a mix of emotions within her. She should have been thrilled for her son, but instead a cloud of doubt loomed overhead. "Can I talk to you for a second?" Mark asked gently, stepping toward her as he sensed her turmoil. "Yeah, sure," she replied, dropping her voice so Jake wouldn't hear, but part of her didn't want to leave the warmth of laughter behind. They stepped away to the corner of the kitchen, where the gentle glow from the oven light flickered softly. "You don't seem okay," Mark said, his tone low and caring. "I know this is a lot to handle." "I didn't think he would come back like this," she admitted quietly. "Everything was starting to feel settled with you. And now Rick is here, throwing everything off balance."
You were creating something new, and now it feels like your past is intruding. But remember, Jake adores you. He's excited to have everyone here, but that doesn't erase what you have with me. His words settled her just a little, but the wave of anxiety still churned in her stomach. "It shouldn't matter what Rick thinks or does," she said, frustration bubbling to the surface. "But it does. I want our son to feel whole, but that requires the right piece from both his parents." Mark took a deep breath, forcing a calm grace into the moment. "Then show him what you've created together. He needs to see how much love surrounds him, no matter how different the pieces may look." Just then, Jake raised his voice, summoning them. "Look what I made!" They turned to see him proudly displaying a glistening plate of cookies, half smeared with frosting and liberally coated in sprinkles, a chaotic masterpiece that only a 4-year-old could conjure. Rick clapped loudly, a broad smile lighting his face. For a moment, Sarah's heart lifted, until she glanced at Mark and saw both admiration and a hint of longing in his gaze.
As Jake's laughter enveloped them, Sarah felt the weight return, a tug of conflicts hidden beneath the joy. "Think we can add some sign language to the fun?" Mark suddenly asked, waving his hands gently in gestures that looked both playful and sincere. To surprise Jake? Sarah's heart soared at the thought, a fresh wave of excitement crashing over her. "That could be amazing," she said, energized by the idea. It would mean so much to him, especially with the holidays. As they transitioned into planning their little surprise, Sarah felt something shift within her. Perhaps this unexpected holiday twist wasn't as tangled as she feared. Maybe, just maybe, the connections they cherished could indeed weave a tapestry of new beginnings. However, lingering doubts danced in and out of her mind. How would Rick react when he found out about their plans? That question loomed, hanging in the air like a snowflake waiting to settle. Would this new endeavor end in laughter or confusion when it finally came to light? Jake's shrieks of joy filled the kitchen as he held up his cookie masterpiece, his eyes sparkling. The joy radiating from him was palpable, wrapping around Sarah like a warm hug. The moment felt almost perfect, but the tension still simmered beneath the surface. It was a thin veil hiding the complexities of their lives. "Can I help too?" Sarah smiled at Rick, wanting to invite him into the circle of holiday cheer, hoping this slight gesture could ease the awkwardness. He looked at her, surprised yet willing, and moved closer to the counter. "Absolutely, the more the merrier," Rick replied, his voice brightening, the caution that weighed heavily in the air. Sarah felt the edges of her discomfort soften just a little as they began collaborating on a grand cookie design, albeit with clumsy, mismatched styles.
As they decorated, Sarah tried to embrace the warm nostalgia swirling around them. It was a musical moment, laughter interspersed with the clinking of utensils and the sweet, sugary scent of baking cookies. Mark, standing beside her with a smile, began signing some phrases he had prepared for Jake, demonstrating them enthusiastically. "Look, Jake!" Mark pointed to the cookies and then did a little sign that resembled dancing. "This is fun." Jake watched, wide eyes brimming with curiosity. "Can you teach me?" he beckoned, bouncing on the balls of his feet. Sarah felt a rush of hope as she imagined how delighted her son would be to learn something new. "Sure." Mark grabbed Jake's small hands, guiding them in the motions. "And this is more cookies," he signed, his face lighting up as Jake mimicked him perfectly. Sarah felt a swell in her heart. Here they were, sharing a moment as a family, fostering bonds beyond the traditional. Mark's ability to connect with Jake in this manner made her realize how valuable he was in their lives. Rick looked on, his expression shifting from one of joy to one of contemplation as he processed this new dynamic. Sarah hastily turned back to the cookies, her mind racing. Could he accept this? Would he be jealous? But as she focused on the task at hand, the sounds of celebration filled every inch of the kitchen. Laughter echoed and the sweet aroma of cookies infused the air while they wove their own brand of joy. "Let's sing a holiday song," Jake shouted suddenly. "The one about the snowman." His excitement infected everyone in the room, and before they knew it, they were singing together, voices melting into harmony amidst the culinary chaos. Sarah's laughter mingled with theirs, peeling back the layers of past grievances. Maybe they could hold on to this little piece of happiness, a mere moment in time where love gathered around them like cozy warmth. But when Rick joined in, his voice blending with theirs, Sarah's heart stumbled. Would he embrace this closeness? And in that moment of shared laughter and harmony, she caught Rick's eye. The twinkle of understanding that passed between them felt like a question, one that she wasn't ready to fully answer. Tension still lurked at the corners of the joy. What would happen once the cookies cooled and the decorations came down? Would it all be too much for Rick? Would he feel left out or brought in? Lost in her thoughts, she almost missed Jake's jubilant shout. "Let's show Grandma the cookies." "Great idea," Mark beamed, signing Grandma with a flourish that made Jake giggle. As they all piled the cookies high, Sarah's heart felt heavy with uncertainty. Maybe the real test waited just beyond the kitchen door. Would Rick, after all this joy, view their plans as a threat or a bridge? The thought weighed on her. As they made their way to the living room, past cookies and laughter, Sarah felt a cold breath of anxiety creeping close. Would this be the moment everything changed, or just a fleeting cookie memory lost in a winter wonderland? Sarah held her breath as they stepped into the living room, the air thick with the musky scent of pine from the Christmas tree. Decorated with shimmering ornaments and twinkling lights, it cast a magical glow that flickered around them. Jake dashed ahead, his little feet pittering across the wooden floor as he called for Grandma. "Mom, look what we made!" His voice rang out in pure delight, cutting through the warm atmosphere like a bright star breaking through the night. Rick's face softened as he watched Jake bound toward his mother, but Sarah felt the gravity of the moment. She silently hoped he wouldn't withdraw, wouldn't stack walls in the wake of this joy. "Wow, big guy, let's see." Grandma's voice was warm and inviting,
her eyes lighting up as Jake proudly held out his cookie creation. Sarah watched the scene unfold, wishful yet cautious. "Look at those colors! Did you do that all by yourself?" Grandma's laughter cascaded around them, and for a moment the doubt in Sarah's heart fluttered with fleeting joy. "Rick, come on over, you'll love this," Mark called out, waving him closer with a broad smile, like he was rallying for some teen victory. Rick stepped forward, almost hesitantly at first, but Sarah glimpsed something shift in him. Maybe it was courage or a spark of curiosity. Either way, it coaxed him to lean closer and take a good look. "That's an impressive cookie, Jake," Rick chimed in, his voice warm, almost easing the tension that gripped Sarah. She dared to hope, thinking maybe they were crafting a new path together. "I helped decorate," Jake exclaimed, his small chest puffed out proudly. "Great teamwork," Mark signed as he spoke, showing Jake how to mimic the gesture. And remarkably, Rick's brows knit together for only a moment before he smiled, a full smile. Suddenly, Sarah felt buoyed by the current of happiness swirling around them. It tugged at the recesses of her heart where uncertainty had taken root. "I think we should make more, right?" Sarah proposed, a lightness in her voice. "We could have a cookie decorating competition." The suggestion brought a chorus of excited shouts, each person wanting to put their skills to the test in a joyful frenzy. "Can we do teams?" Jake asked eagerly. "Of course," Sarah replied, looking at Mark and then Rick. "We can have 2 teams, Jake and Grandma against Rick and me." Rick shot her a look that mixed surprise with a hint of excitement. For a moment, Sarah wondered if this was the day significant things might change. "Okay then, team it is," Rick said with a new enthusiasm, and Sarah's heart danced. Could this be the moment they worked together, all 4 of them, to build something greater? And as they set the stage for this friendly competition, Sarah shared furtive glances with Rick. He seemed to be coming into his own, shedding the hesitation that had shadowed him.
Each laugh, each melted smile between them felt like a step closer to understanding, not just as parents, but as a part of a unique family. As they decorated again with greater intent, Sarah felt the weight of hope press against her chest. What had been a simple afternoon was now a canvas for warmth, connection, and possibility. Yet as they laughed and decorated, a shadow flickered across Sarah's mind. Had Rick truly embraced the shift? Or was there still a part of him clinging to the past, waiting for the perfect moment to retreat? Just then, Jake's jubilant laughter rang out, breaking Sarah's thoughts. "Look, my cookie is the best!" The warmth spread through her, and Sarah grinned. Perhaps love was like these cookies, crafted with care, sometimes messy, but filled with sweetness nonetheless. And then Rick leaned over, whispering something to Sarah amidst the laughter. "I think I can learn sign language for Jake." Her breath caught, and a wave of emotion surged within, a leap toward connection. But could it mean more than just communication? What transformation might this spark between them? As they continued decorating, Sarah realized that the door was wide open. They could step through together or watch it close. But what if rebuilding meant facing fears that lay buried, waiting to surface? Would it all come crashing down? Or could they truly forge a family out of laughter, love, and a cookie-filled holiday spirit? The competition began, the living room filling with excitement as Jake divided the teams. They giggled as they battled with sprinkles and frosting, each cookie revealing more of their personalities than their words ever could. Sarah focused on her creation, just like she focused on this moment, on making it legendary, hoping it would transform the past and rewrite their family's story into something bright and new. Rick leaned in close, forming a swirl of icing as he attempted to decorate. "Think I can beat Jake?" he teased, his playful tone disarming the last of their earlier tension. "Not a chance," Sarah shot back with a laugh, her heart lightening with every second they spent together, surrounded by joyful chaos. Mark chimed in, adding a silly zoom while signing champion, his hands moving expertly through the air and captivating Jake, who squealed in delight. "Mom, look, this one's going to be the champion cookie," Jake exclaimed, his entire being sparkling with childlike wonder. "Just wait until you see my secret weapon," Rick winked mischievously, and Sarah felt a warmth growing within her. Hours flew by, punctuated by laughter and playful banter. Sarah couldn't believe how easily they were becoming a family again, each moment reinforcing how they could rise from the challenges they'd faced. Even Grandma joined in, guiding Jake with gentle hands and amused eyes, cheering them both on. As the final touches were applied to the cookies, Sarah felt an unexpected calm wash over her, the tightness in her chest easing as she caught snippets of laughter and joy filling the room. She stole a glance at Mark, whose eyes were bright as they danced around the kitchen, reflecting fond memories of times past. "Jake,
she shouted as she turned back to her son. "Let's present our cookies." "Who's ready for a cookie showcase?" Mark called, excitement dripping from every word, lifting Jake into the air, their laughter echoing against the walls, resonating through the core of Sarah's heart. "Time to do our grand reveal," Rick announced proudly, relief lifting the weight that had been on his shoulders since his arrival. "Meet Team Dad." Cheers erupted as they proudly displayed their cookie creation, sprinkles dancing everywhere, frosting piled high, and shapes that could only be defined as unique. "That's epic," Jake shouted, bouncing on his little feet. "But don't forget about Team Grandma." They turned to Grandma, who clapped her hands in delight, full of zest and vigor. Sarah stepped back, her heart swelling. This was the moment, the culmination of all their efforts, their lives intertwined, filled with warmth, laughter, love, and connection. "Okay, let's try them," Grandma suggested, her face lighting up with anticipation as everyone nodded. In that moment, Sarah felt like everything had shifted, not just for Rick or Mark, but for her too. Each cookie they bit into felt like a sweet reminder of second chances and possible futures. The flavors echoed connections, those bonds they had fought so hard to rekindle. But amidst the sweet chaos, a thought nudged at her heart. She needed to seize this opportunity, the magic of this moment, to voice her feelings. But how? Could she really risk it all and toss her heart on the line? As they munched cheerfully on their creations, Sarah gathered her courage. "Guys, you know I've really worked hard to connect us all, because I believe we can be a real family again." The room hushed, each person looking her way, a mix of surprise and hope reflected in their expressions. Rick's brow furrowed slightly, yet tenderness seeped into his features. It was the opening she had yearned to find. "I know we have history, but it's clear to me, with some effort and understanding, we can create something better. For Jake." Mark's eyes sparkled as he nodded, affirming her sentiment. "And I want to be here to help wherever I can. We all have a stake in his happiness." Jake's eyes widened, and he quickly signed family, the innocence of his gesture wrapping around them like a warm hug. "I want you all to be happy," he exclaimed, his small hands flying in the air. Tears pricked Sarah's eyes, the beauty of the moment overwhelming her. Perhaps they could truly build something profound together, even through distance and uncertainty. In that moment of unity, Rick stepped closer, his voice filled with sincerity.
"I'm willing to give this another shot, for Jake and for us, with no more hiding or hesitations." Without conscious thought, Mark interjected, signing together and smiling broadly. "This is how we start, not just for Jake, but for us." Sarah's heart soared, and the gravity of the moment settled on her like a beautiful wave. She felt lighter, as though lifting the anchors that had held her down. As the night drew to a close, they stood together, laughing and signing within the flickering glow of the Christmas lights, joy spilling from their hearts. The memories they'd create tonight would forever echo in their souls, standing as a testament to love's quiet yet unyielding determination. Rising from the struggle, weaving through doubts, joys, and reconnecting, Sarah felt more confident than ever. "Here's to our new year," she toasted, raising her cup of cocoa. "May it be filled with laughter, love, and a whole lot of cookies." "Cheers," they echoed in jubilation, their voices merging, hearts intertwined once again. The door to their past had swung wide open, letting light from their shared future flood in. The adventure wasn't finished, it was only just beginning. And with that realization came the certainty of transformation, a family reborn, strong enough to face whatever came next, together. Before you head off, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the joy of this transformation. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. I want to know what you think. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Let's inspire the world together.